If you've ever tried to scrape a website that has content hidden behind paginated pages using an agent, you'll quickly notice that it struggles to do so or comes up with a complicated solution that could break if the site changes. But this is what Firecrawl was designed to do, because it can walk every single page, extract the information you need, and knows exactly when to stop. How? Well, hit subscribe and let's find out. Pagination exists so that the user doesn't get all the data at once, so information is split across multiple pages. Now, yes, technically an agent can find out when the last page is, but that only works for sites that send plain HTML with fixed markup. If for some reason the layout changes, or it's a site that has JavaScript-powered infinite scroll, then everything falls apart. But this can all be fixed with Firecrawl because it handles all the parsing, giving you back clean, structured JSON, meaning you don't have to maintain complex regex. And because it scrapes every page, the last page is just the one that comes back with 0 results. So this will work for any site, even JS-heavy ones, and I'll show you how to do that later. For now, let's go through a simple demo using the Hacker News website. Now, I could ask my agent to use Firecrawl to scrape all the pages on the Hacker News website, and if you have the MCP, CLI, or even the official Grok plugin installed, it will go ahead and do that for you. But as much as I like using Grok 4.5, that isn't always the best way to get reliable and repeatable results. The best way to do that is to write it in code using the Firecrawl SDK. Now, we're going to be using the Node SDK for this, but you don't have to write the code yourself. You could get an agent to, of course, write the code for you, but it does help to understand some of what the code does. So I'm going to break it down step by step. So this is the code for a simple Firecrawl scrape using TypeScript, but Firecrawl does have SDKs that support other languages. Now you could use a Firecrawl API key if you have one, but this is optional. So I'm going to remove it just for this demo. Now here I'm using the scrape method, which takes the URL as an argument, and this format is optional because it outputs to markdown by default. So if we run this file, it scrapes the Hacker News site in markdown, and we can see here that the stories exist. But we don't need all of the extra characters from this page. We just need the URL, the title, maybe even the points and comments. So to do that, we can change the type from markdown to JSON with a prompt telling it exactly what to extract. And to be more specific, we can provide it with a XOD schema, which will give us the information in this format. So now if we run this file, we get all the information back in clean structured JSON, and it's way more obvious to see exactly what the title is, URL, the points and number of comments. But this is only scraping information for one page. If we wanted to find out all the pages that exist on Hacker News and scrape all of that information, well, that will take a bit more work to our code. So we can be pretty sure that the first page of Hacker News will always exist, and we can change the URL or guess what the next page is and get the information from there. But how do we know if there's another page after that and a page after that and so on? Well, because Firecrawl has structured the information as JSON, what we can do is keep incrementing the number, so going up by 1, and scraping each page until we get to a page that doesn't provide the information in the shape that we expect. So if we get to a page that doesn't have any stories, we can assume that the previous page was the last one, and we can stop our scrape. And in order to represent that in code, well, we have our JSON extract with our prompt and our schema like we saw before, but now we've wrapped everything inside a while loop, and we've put a value for the first page, which is page 1. And what we do in this while loop is we'll extract the value of rows, which is the stories data that we've got from the page, and we'll check if there's nothing there. If there isn't anything there, then we'll break the loop. But if there is, we'll push this information to an array, which I'll show you later, and then we'll write everything in that array to a JSON file. Now we could just push rows as is, but there's some extra information I want to add to each row, telling me what page number this information came from. Now up here, we have our stories array that's going to contain all the information about the stories. And this is where we increment the page number if we've had a successful scrape, which changes the value of this URL. Now, unlike the previous examples, I'm not going to run this one right now because it does take a long time to fetch all the information. But I did run this earlier. And if we take a look at the file, we can see it's managed to get all the information from the Hacker News website. So this is just page 1. Now we're on page 2, and we get all the stories on page 61, which contains over 7,000 lines of code. And this is where the scrape stopped because it's the last page. That's almost 1,040 stories from Hacker News. And that's it. You now know how to use Firecrawl to scrape every single page on a paginated website. From here, you can take the code and use it to build an agent skill. Don't worry, I'll put a link to the code in the description. Or you could use it in a CI pipeline, or you could use it to build your very own research agent. But if pagination is behind a scroll instead of a URL, so like an infinite feed powered by JavaScript, then Firecrawl has an interact endpoint that can control a real browser so it can click, scroll, and fill in any forms that need to be filled in. And you can watch this video, which explains exactly how to set it up and what it can do.